that there's going to be bad plays, but you're going to get the good plays too. How do you kind of approach that?
Bud Grant used to say, for every rookie you play, you can add one to your loss column. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's what he used to say.
What's your two explosives?
What's that?
What did you say in the two explosives that you gave up, that you guys gave up?
Bad play.
Any context to it? Any teaching points
Yeah, a lot of teaching points.
that you can share?
I'll leave him alone.
Should Makuba, does he have to play the man there? And Reed's kind of in front, he's in back. Is he the guy that has to play the man there?
No, he has to play his deep zone.
What do you attribute right now to the lack of sacks from your edge rushers right now?
I don't think our rush has been bad. The ball's been coming out pretty quick at times. I haven't felt an epidemic during the games when I'm calling them that our rush isn't good enough. So, sacks are sacks.
Are those simulated pressures with Bond? Is that in response to Nolan Smith not being available, or is that something you were planning on?
No, that's just part of what we do.
A couple of weeks ago, you were talking about Jahad Campbell playing off ball alone and
Playing what?
Off ball alone, letting Bond kind of be on the edge. It seems like that was something he was able to do this week. What have you made of Campbell's progression and the trust he's earned to be off ball alone?
Yeah, that hadn't happened.
How do you think Keeley held up?
Huh?
How do you think Keeley held up?
Good. Thought he did good. I mean, he can be better. The true test for him will be to see how he improves. But overall, did good.
Would you like to keep him there even when Adorie's healthy?
It's possible.
What did you like about his performance, and what areas did you see for improvement?
He was pretty sticky in man coverage. Like to see his tackling improve. One thing a guy has to learn that has played predominantly special teams is tackling on defense is a lot different than tackling in special teams. So, but I'm confident he can improve that.
If I can ask a big picture career question, the last time the Eagles played the Broncos,
I may choose not to answer it.
That's fair. That's fine. You were on the other sideline. How did that experience as a head coach help you as a coordinator in the years after?
Playing them?
No, just the experience with Denver. How did that help you as a coordinator?
I was still the coordinator there, okay. So it was just one of 25 or 26 years of being a coordinator.
With another body going down, elbow's injury, are you comfortable right now with what you have in the edge rushing room? Do you think you need outside upgrades?
I think we're good with what we have. The numbers are dwindling, and if we need more, I'm sure Howie will get something done.
What have you seen from Aziz Ojulari in practice of late?
What's that?
What have you seen from Aziz Ojulari in practice of late?
Yeah, he's been practicing good.
Was Makuba playing almost exclusively that safety spot just because of the personnel usage, or are you going to stick just with him there?
Right now, he's playing full-time.
What are the factors that had Aziz inactive for the first 4 games?
Well, special teams plays a major factor in that when you're talking about either your fourth or fifth guy if you have five dressed. So that's a big factor.
What have you seen specifically from Uche and Za'Darius since he got here?
I thought Za'Darius played his best game since he had been here, which is expected, and I think Josh is improving too, and I'm pleased with where he's headed.
What have you seen from Quinyon in his year 2 so far?
Good. I thought he played very well the other day. I told him I think it was his best game since he's been here. He played well.
What will you haven't yet, but what will you look for Nakobe's eligible to come back here? Is he ready in your mind? What have you seen, and how would you describe what he did for this team last year?
Well, he played great last year. Besides being the signal caller guy and being a leader, you can't be a leader if you don't play good. And he played great for us last year. As far as where he's at now, either this week or next week, he'll start his practice window, and then we'll see where he's at.
And then what are the challenges that Bo Nix presents?
He's a lot like Baker Mayfield. I think he might be Baker's younger brother. Really good, really, really good.
Cooper DeJean, his tackling, what kind of luxury is that? Have you had many corners in your career that can tackle like Cooper?
Well, he's playing mainly nickel. So that's an important part of the nickel position because you're playing so much of it anymore on the early downs. So that's part of the job description, and he does a great job at it. We're thrilled to have him.
When you say Mayfield's younger brother, what similar skill sets do you see there?
Well, you just watch Mayfield. I mean, he's a scrambler. He's a competitor. You know, he'll throw the ball in tight places. He runs their offense really well. I think Sean's done a great job bringing him along. And they got their quarterback for the future. You know, they looked long and hard for many years, and have got one.
What kind of role do you see for N'Kobe with Zach and Jihad also healthy, once N'Kobe's back?
We'll see when we get there. I don't think we're there yet.
A few of the, I'm sorry.
When you were talking about Campbell, so like a rush at the start of the second half or Bonds rushing off the edge, is that more Campbell's getting help inside if he's not
No,
alone?
I wouldn't consider that where he's off the ball, you know, by himself.
Do you think right now Jihad has the requisite skill set right now to play on the edge more? Like, is there a possibility Jihad plays the edge and N'Kobe plays on it?
Not right now.
The quarterback aside, a few of the blue chip players there, you were a big part of bringing there. How much have you paid attention to what Denver's done in the past few years?
Not too much. You know, I still have good friends in that organization. I wish them nothing but the best, except this week. You know, Sean's a friend of mine. I think there's only about 8 or 9 players left from when I was there. So, and they're all good players. So, not too much. That's, what's this, 2000? It's 4 years down the road. Those are dog years in this business.
What kind of problems does Sean present?
He's an excellent play caller. They're very multiple on offense with multiple personnel groups, multiple schemes from the play standpoint, but yet still has a good bit of old school in him, and they'll run the ball. They like the power game and the run game. He's really good. He's tough to go against.
It's been pretty clear that Jalen Carter's been dealing with that shoulder injury. How do you know how much to play him as he deals with that?
Yeah, I think it's something that every now and then will really sting him, and we got to get him out for a little bit, and then I think it calms down and he's able to go. But yeah, there's no doubt he's fighting through an injury, and thought he played well the other day in spite of that.
Once Sean got there, he tried hiring you or was interested in hiring you.
Why you're like the shit stirrer?
I'm curious how much you paid attention to that, or
Paid attention to what?
consideration you paid to potentially going back there as coordinator.
I didn't. You know what you guys have missed, not just you, but everybody, is, you know, we gave up a 65-yard field goal and a 58-yard field goal. These kicking balls that they changed this year have drastically changed the kicking game, field goals in particular. So it's almost like they need an asterisk here, like it was the live ball era, or the asterisk for those home runs Bonds and Sosa and McGuire were hitting. You know, the way they've changed the ball, the NFL, the kicking ball, has drastically changed the field goals.
Is the shape different?
No, the kicking balls, and you can ask Clay about it when he gets in here, but in years past, the officials would rub them down, or other people would rub them down, and you play with them. Now the balls are in-house all week, and they kick those balls that they've had, and nobody else touches them. I mean, the guy in Dallas is going to hit a 70-plus yarder this year. You can just book it.
Does it change the way you call?
Yeah, I mean, who thought they would hit a 65-yarder the other day? So it's drastically changed the game, the kicking game, and the field goal. guys have longer range than they used to. Kind of like Brady Anderson with the Orioles. And we went from 15 homers to 50 in 1 year.
He used performance enhancing drugs.
I am insinuating that.
Hank Aaron's still your home run champion?
He is, definitely. Yeah.
And with that, we'll welcome Michael Clay.
Michael, what do you think about the kicking balls?
I think you got all the answers from Vic. He obviously he jokes to me when he retires he wants to be a special teams coach, so he's well oiled for that. In terms of the kicking balls, yeah, ball's traveling. It's still warm out. Shoot, it was 102 degrees feel on Sunday. Chase McLaughlin was a really good kicker. He was able to connect on that end of half situation, and it's just the trend of the league right now.
Michael, can you specifically say what is different about the kicking ball?
We just get to work on it a little bit longer than we used to. We used to only have an hour. Now we get the whole week to fill it in, and the kickers get to pick what ball they feel pretty good about. And you only get, I think, 6 balls. If you lose one of them or one gets scuffed up and the NFL deems it's not playable, then you're down to 5. So you just got to make sure those balls are primed and ready to go come Sunday.
Who works on the balls?
I think it's a lot of people, a lot of EQ guys, and they get feedback back from Jake and Braden, and everyone's in cahoots in terms of what the ball wants to look like.
Do you think this is good for the game?
And the NFL want more points? There it is.
When do you want the balls to be ready? Usually you have that like an hour before the game began. Do you, like by Friday, Saturday? Or
Yeah, after, they work, Braden and Jake are able to work through it on, throughout the week to feel it, also with the long snapper and everything like that. So by the end of the wek, feel good about the 6 balls, ready to go.
What has Cam Latu brought to your units?
Yeah, he's brought a physical presence, obviously some athleticism, and a lot of energy. You see it on the sideline, you see it after some plays with the special teams unit. They're getting up, they're celebrating, and it's not just Cam. I know you just specifically picked out Cam, and like I said a couple weeks ago, it's a heck of a story. Kind of bounced around the league last couple of years to find a niche, whether it's a fullback, tight end, but also playing special teams, and he's helping out the unit in any way he can, and obviously he started the tone against Tampa Bay with that huge block.
How much was that him finding that crease done through pre-scout?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, goes into all the work that, Tyler, Joe P, puts into scouting, myself. But again, at the end of the day, everything looks great on paper. Everything looks great on my whiteboard until we could properly execute it like we did on Sunday. It's all to the players. I mean, it doesn't just start with Cam. It starts with Sidney buying the eyes of the PP. It starts with Patrick Johnson getting a wide look on that guard, making sure that post arm isn't stopping Cam. Then Cam with his hand work to block down the hands. You can see the long snapper try to hold him for dear life right there. Then him to slide his hands off the table, take the ball off the punter's foot without really hitting him was pretty good. Then, fortunate enough, we got a nice little hop right to Sidney, and he was able to do the rest.
Nick was apparently saying, "I told you," after that one. What can you tell us about the backstory there?
Yeah, I know. We just, we go through our game plan early on in the week and, have an inkling when we could possibly get one. And it was the same thing that was said, on the field goal block against, LA on that last one. You think you could get one? It's a big, I told you so. We could get one. And, fortunate for us, it executed in a good spot for us.
How much work goes into, we saw Jake have that the one touchback, like the short touchback. How much work has gone into trying to perfect that kickoff?
Yeah, I mean, Jake does an unbelievable job in trying to perfect anything he does, whether it's field goal, whether it's kickoff. A lot of work goes into it in terms of behind the scenes. We went out there. I know it was raining last Wednesday, but we were still able to go outside, just get a feel for it. Then a lot of it just comes down to confidence. Jake was able to, at the end of the week, say, I'm pretty confident in this kick. That's all I need to hear to implement it. But also, it's a good changeup. You saw a couple, low liners, then you saw some up in the air. And, the kickoff team has done a really good job thus far in the first 4 weeks of covering down. Any way we could get, the starting point for the defense inside the 25 on kickoff is pretty good for us. So we're going to just try and keep evolving it, try to keep getting better at it. And, just because of the kick, we have to keep working on our technique and fundamentals from a kickoff coverage standpoint.
Michael, what are the instructions to Braden before that last play, the safety?
Yeah, it goes all the way down to our situations and not going to too much depth into it, but Coach Sirianni does a great job putting us in any of these situations throughout the week. We talk about it a lot. This is my 12th year. I've never had to be in a take a safety situation, and it came up. I can now check it off my bucket list of things to do on special team situations. But Braden did an unbelievable job to waste those 6 seconds. One, protect the ball, get out of bounds so it doesn't take an unnecessary hit. So he executed at a high level in that situation.
What are those conversations like from your perspective, end of game? Because Braden's not used to handling the football. So how do you what were your thoughts going into that?
My thoughts, we're going to execute at the highest ability we possibly can. I really don't have any worries about Braden, handling the ball because we put them in so many of these different situations, end of game, end of half, little things you really don't think about that could happen throughout the game. So when, the snap from Charlie got to his hands, I knew exactly what he was going to do. He did a great job being able to run out that time. So, the confidence doesn't just happen on Sunday. It happens from Wednesday when they get in the building and throughout the training camp and OTAs.
Is he looking at the clock, or how do you kind of make sure he does
we have kind of a set of parameters, and we time it out in practice, like, with the scout team going out and chasing them, how many seconds can we waste off of that, and it fell under those parameters where we felt good about, possibly wasting the clock in that point. Then at the end of the day, if there is 1 second left, it's, the 90-something degrees out there, you don't feel awful about having to kick from the 20 if there is 1 more second, get us all down in another situation. But like I said, Braden did an unbelievable job to waste all those times. And it's just kind of like the internal clock. And, some guys have the wherewithal to look up at the screen as they're leaving, like, all right, I got this much time to waste.
Is there a number of explosive plays you aim for from special teams in a season? And how many, there's some obvious ones, but how many have you guys made already this year?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a set quota on like explosive plays that we want throughout the year. I think for me personally, I just want us to go in game by game. Can we help this team win in any way possible? What is that flipping the field in the punt coverage, which I think we could do a lot better at. Those two, coaches have the misnomer like they only remember bad plays, and there's only 2 plays that really stick out to me. But to take a positive turn, to start off that game with a punt return touchdown off a block punt, obviously that just gets the juices going, and it's able to allow the team to feel confident in a hostile environment that, at times we haven't played well in. But, for me, it's just how are we going to help this team from that third phase? And I thought they did a pretty good job, starting the game off, executing our field goals. Our kickoff coverage was really good. And even our kickoff return outside of one where, we just misplayed the ball, getting out to the 40 one time with Will, 35 by Tank. So it's any way we could help out the team, shorten the field for our offense and lengthen the field for our defense.
As a follow to that, it's been since 2014 since you've had like this volume of big plays on special teams. You were there in 14. There was such an emphasis that year on adding those types of players. In camp this year, did you have a sense that this group could I guess, do these types of things?
You always think, from a coaching standpoint throughout camp, you want to have an explosive special teams unit. To put it in terms of like, did I know it? No, because you don't know who you're going to get, week in and week out. But the work they put in from Wednesday all the way up to Sunday, you get a sense like, all right, we got a chance. We have an opportunity to hit one of these, things of that nature. But again, everything looks great on the whiteboard upstairs until we put it on the field, and, kudos all to the players of executing that game plan and going out there and changing the dynamic of the game with that block punt or another big play.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
The Philly, it's got Philly stuff on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the one Eagles thing I wear. There is an Eagle. There is an Eagle.
Company with an R? Roback?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are cool.
All right, guys, ready?
What went wrong in the second half against Tampa, from your perspective?
Yeah, so the second half, I mean, when you look at the game as a whole, we started off the game like we wanted to. We had good pace, good rhythm. We got it going. And I think really sometimes when you evaluate games after the fact, there's obviously things we want to work on to get better, and we know we can be critical of as a staff, that we know we can continue to improve. So I think stepping out of it and looking at it, there were some things, just I felt like at times we were just trying to do what we kind of wanted to. And looking back, I think there's some things we can change as far as how we want to approach that situation. But really, it just comes down to just learning from each situation. We've had very unique games to this point, and so I think it's been good to go through that. Early in the season, we've played really, really good defenses, and we've had to adjust accordingly, whether it's second half, whether it's come out in the first half and do different things to try to throw them off. And so I think really it's been a good learning process for us early now, as a coaching staff and players to kind of continue to grow as an offense.
How did you approach your communication with A.J. Brown and handling his perspective?
AJ and I have a great relationship just throughout the years, being here. We spent a lot of time together. So, as far as communication and getting to him, him and I have had no problem. And I know where, his heart is and where he lies. He wants to win. So he feels like he can do everything and anything to help us at all times. So, as far as I'm concerned, him and I are in a good spot.
There's been a lot of focus on the kind of routes AJ has run this year. Are you using him differently than you have in past years? And do you agree with some of the criticism that he's running the same route a lot?
I think at times, if you look through the first 4 games, he's been doing some different stuff. And sometimes, we've talked about it before, sometimes the ball finds him and sometimes it doesn't, So going into every game, you plan on making sure he's the primary and moving around and doing stuff for him. And if it doesn't go his way, that means usually we're on rhythm or something good's happening and Jalen's reading it out and it's going to other guys, and that can happen. So I think when you go into it, you just want to make sure like, hey, he's the guy, we're going through him, and if it happens, it happens, and you just don't want to really force it.
Through the quarter of the season, what would you say your offensive identity is?
I think, similar to last year, early in seasons, you're trying to figure out, first you're trying to do what you have to do to win the game, right? And we've played 4 teams, arguably, like if you looked at last year, you would say, okay, the Chiefs was a tough test for us. The Rams was a tough test twice last year. And then this past week, obviously Tampa, throughout the history against Tampa, it's not been easy down there, right? It's been tough. So we've had our moments against them. So I think you're trying to do everything you can independently within those game plans to win the game. And so when you're doing that, you're trying to feel your way through it. Like, okay, last week it was this week it was that. And so I think we're starting to feel some things that we have kind of going that's kind of flowed throughout a few games now. And so I think it's just building on that because each defense in each week presents something totally new. And this week we're playing another really good defense, top tier, really good front rushers. The secondary is good. So I think there's some things we've learned that like, okay, this is a little different than last year, or, we're kind of continuing on this path, so let's push this a little bit. But I think you just got to look at each game independently, and then you start to see patterns as you start to build throughout the season. And it's great that it's happening now, and not later, and we're playing these tough defenses now to kind of figure this out as we go.
Going back to the second half, it looked like they ran a more simulated pressure in the second half. Do you think that was part of the issue?
I wouldn't say that was the issue. We couldn't get out of first down, and obviously that starts with us as a staff to try to make sure we're more productive on first down and just kind of go from there. I wouldn't say there's anything that they did to us necessarily that was totally different or out of line with what Todd likes to do. We just got caught in situations where he could start to do the things that he likes to do. And in the first half, we were able to not really encounter that because we were on the attack and we got in a good mood to where we were just kind of moving the ball in a good flow.
What's your concern level over the running game through 4 games?
It's funny. I know a lot of the guys have talked about it too. We've been so close on so many runs, and I still think we're still trying to feel our way out, as far as who we are. Each game, especially this first 4, right? We had so much history with these teams, so they know our personnel. They know a lot of things that we've done in the past. So you're trying to feel out like, okay, this has been good against them in the past. Is it still? Do we need to do things new? So I think there's still a feeling out process, and we've been really close. Stout does an unbelievable job with the O-line. The guys are so good on game day about communication with me. Saquon's been unbelievable, and I know they're wanting it to happen so bad, but at the same time, we just don't want to. You don't want to force it because you don't want to have like, okay, we got to hit some home runs. But at times when we need to run it, we've done a decent job of picking up yards in critical moments. It happened the other day in a few spots where we kind of needed some yards. We ran the ball a little bit. It happened, throughout the second half. We needed some yards in the Rams game just because we were on the ball so much. So I think when we need it, we've had it. We just got to continue to look at, okay, where is this going, and what it looks different, right? Each year looks different. So I think that's a piece of it too.
You look at the last couple of games. What do you make of the stark difference from half to half in each of them?
Yeah, so obviously the Rams game, right? First half didn't go what we want. In the second half, we were able to do things differently and get it going. And then the Buccaneers game was the opposite, right? We got off to a hot start. We're in a good pace with the offense, a good rhythm, and it was flowing, and things were just kind of happening as we kind of anticipated and the way we wanted to put the pressure on them. And the second half, we just got off rhythm, right? And so when you get off rhythm, you're kind of searching for that play to kind of get the spark and get back in phase, and we just didn't really get back in phase.
Are there buttons in that? Sorry, Tim. Are there buttons in when you're off rhythm that you can push that you like to lean on, and why weren't?
And I think that's part of the process we're going through, right? As a staff and as a team throughout this first 4 games, is finding what that is. Like I said, there's some things that we know a little bit, like, okay, this is starting to pop up that we know we're excelling at a little bit, and so I think as we go, we'll start to figure out that more.
What's it like managing so many high-end players? You have Devontae and you have AJ and you have Dallas and you have Saquon, and not all teams around the league have that.
Yeah.
Which obviously is largely a good thing, but also there are some residual effects, I guess, if somebody's not involved the way that they want to be. What is that like from where you sit?
So I think, first of all, like you said, it's a great problem, right? Because some teams don't have what we have. So it is a great problem. And really, the guys have been great with me. I've been around here for a while, so obviously I know them a little bit differently, but they all want to win, and that's the number one thing. They all want to win. They'll do anything for the team to win. So, whether it's somebody's getting the ball, somebody's not, when you watch it at times, there's guys being excited for other guys when they're making plays. And that's all we can really ask for, is just like, hey, we all want to win. We're on the same page. We know it may be different from play to play or from game to game, but we want to win.
Kevin, I'm looking at the
that contribution as a former passing game coordinator and wide receiver coach. Is there something inherent about the wide receiver position where it's dependent on targets to contribute, where it makes it a little bit different to manage?
That is a very unique position, right? Coaching both quarterbacks and receivers and being around those guys for a long time. The receivers, there's so many different values that they add, right? There's a lot of role players within that room. There's guys that are the alpha males that are, your target guys. And then there's guys that, they can impact games just by something happening and by clearing a route out. So I think when you go into games, those guys all want to impact it because they can, right? They can make one play and flip the script really, really fast within a game. So it's a fun group, right? Those guys are usually the guys that are the lively guys and excited and all that kind of stuff. So, when you're around those guys, you feel their energy and they can change the game, right? You look around the NFL, that's a lot of those groups are like that.
Kevin, I know, I don't know if your numbers are the same of what I have here, but it seems you guys are like 6th most in terms of runs up the middle, and yet I think you're near the bottom. 31st is what I have here, 2 yards per carry up the middle. What have been the issues with getting runs up the middle? Why have you guys not been able to run there?
I think we've been, constantly looking at that from week to week. And some weeks we go into it saying, like, look, if we're up the middle, whether it's, a gap scheme or a zone scheme, our angles can be good. And then what's the reason why it's not happening? So I think that's something we're constantly looking at and trying to evaluate. And sometimes when you can pack the box a little bit, you can get better angles. And sometimes, depending what the defense calls, it doesn't materialize like you anticipate. So I think we're still working on that, working through that, but it's definitely something, we got to keep in mind.
How big a challenge has things been for the offensive line, whereas Lane's been in and out? Landon came into the season banged up. Tyler's new there.
Yep.
How big of a challenge has it been for the offensive line, and do you think that's impacted the running game at all?
I think, with everything, it's always going to be new from year to year, week to week, game to game. And that is a piece of it, right? But when you look at it, like, Stout has those guys always prepared. That is one thing we know. So if something does happen, obviously we know we're in a good spot with everybody. And, we have elite players in certain spots. And, Lane is an unbelievable player. And when we have guys come in for him, Fred's done a good job when he's had to step up. And so you obviously miss those guys when they're not in. But as far as like the next man up, we've done a good job of getting those guys ready. But it is different. It has looked different this year compared to last year. We were a little more steady in those spots. So I think throughout time, we'll continue to work on that and see where it goes.
A tush-push question if I can.
Yep.
The variations of the play, how will that change the way defenses play you? And then also Dallas Goedert said that that touchdown was in the playbook for 4 years. You just called it for the first time. Is that abnormal, or is there a big collection of plays that you have that you are waiting for the right opportunity to call?
A little bit of both, right? Those plays are fun to call. Everybody gets excited when they're in the game plan. You know they're going to call them. So we've kind of been waiting for opportunities to get those called. And it does, right? It puts more stress on the defense. So now they have to honor other things. Obviously, you can see what happened on Saquon's touchdown, right? There was nobody there. So it helps you, kind of game plan and have things off of, plays off of plays, basically. And some of those plays have kind of been talked about before and they've been around. But, to get them into a game plan and get them called is the ultimate goal. And we were able to do that, and that should help us going forward. And they're fun to call, right? The energy of everybody when those things get called is great.
Kevin, you were asking earlier about having big personalities like Devontae, AJ, big playmakers to kind of appease or get the ball to. How has Jalen handled all of that? How does he kind of approach that when it comes to making sure everyone gets theirs?
He does a good job. I think ultimately now with him being, in our 5th year together with Nick and the whole staff, I think he understands now where his role, where he is, and he's comfortable with it. And a lot of us have been around together. So I think, he's just trying to do everything he can to win games at this point. And it is awesome. It's a great problem to have. So, you always look at it as something really, really good when you have all these guys wanting to impact the game, to win the game.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.